This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
Alright, small folk of Westeros, time for us to all put down the pitchforks we've been sharpening since the Season 8 finale of Game of Thrones and enjoy HBO's latest offering, House of the Dragon. Because the first episode was pretty much awesome. There were a few things that I'm unsure about, but obviously I haven't seen the whole season, so I'm just going to say the first episode is great, and I'm expecting a lot now. The expectations are high. Immediately, as soon as the show started, it became pretty obvious that the look and feel and just general quality of the show was going to be very high. This is what we expect after watching a bunch of Game of Thrones, and clearly the budget is there. The writing is there. A lot of the dialogue was awesome. The characters were really well fleshed out. The bar is already very high now, which ultimately means that the writing needs to continue to deliver and not kind of stumble over itself like it ended up doing at the end of Game of Thrones, which, if you can't tell, still kind of has a sour taste in my mouth. A few little quick hitters from me. Highlight of the episode was the juxtaposition between the tournament and the queen trying to deliver her child. Both very hard events to look away from, and both very violent and bloody for different reasons. Also, I felt like, so I really liked Daemon. I think I'm going to like his character. I mean, like maybe kind of an interesting word here, but he's going to be a character, a very strong character. I don't like that he sounds so much like Ramsay Bolton, just the way that Matt Smith, the actor, is delivering, or the way that he talks. I don't know, his vocal intonation, the way that he sounds a lot like the actor that played Ramsay. Ramsay's a character who gives you kind of the creepy crawlies for a different reason than Daemon, and it just seems weird that they sound so similar. So, didn't really like that. So I have read Fire and Blood. I'm fairly familiar with what's going on here, but there were still several characters that I couldn't recall their names. I wish that I could. I wish there was some way that TV could incorporate some kind of compendium for here's who this character is, here's why they're important. I know there's like an X-ray feature. I'm actually not sure if HBO has this or not. Amazon Prime does. It's nice. But that just kind of bugged me a little bit, and obviously we don't want a heavy exposition show. But I wish there was some way to cue me in as to who these people were. Speaking of characters, we got Corlys Velaryon in the first episode, but we didn't really get much of him. Like, he just kind of like sat around and drummed his fingers against the desk in the small council. I want to know why he's cool, because he is a very cool character, and I'm sure we'll get this later in some further episodes. But in the first episode, at least, I was like, this guy has potential. If I hadn't read Fire and Blood, or if I didn't know the history, I wouldn't maybe have thought too much of him. So having read, I'm just like, we need more. So please give us more in future episodes. I'm sure we will get more, because he's awesome. Okay, now my main thing, which this is the biggest negative of the episode. I love that so first of all, I love that they do a good little smattering of history every now and then, like with Nymeria, and then going back to the Targaryen history. That's awesome. We need that. Just gives so much depth to the world, and helps people understand a little bit more of what's going on, even if they don't know exactly what the historical points are. However, adding in this whole thing, this new prophecy of the Song of Ice and Fire and the dream that Aegon had. So first of all, this is not like necessarily in the books. I know that George R. R. Martin collaborated with the showrunners to add this in. So I think from a book perspective, like in the context of the books exist in the show, the original Game of Thrones show doesn't exist, that's fine to add in, because this is something that's like hinted at around the nature of prophecy in the series is such that it's kind of unreliable and who knows what, etc. That's all fine. I have no issues with that. However, they made a Game of Thrones TV show, and they leaned really heavily into the winter is coming thing and the prophecy and the Night King and all of this. This was a huge part of the TV show. And then Season 8 just wrote it off. And the Night King was nothing. And they just got rid of that whole plot point. So, again, this has a sour taste in my mouth. Now, if we're going in the House of the Dragon, in the new show, if we're going to say, we're going to connect this to the Game of Thrones TV show. And the way we're going to do this is give you the same prophecy. But the prophecy is the one that the TV show, the original TV show, wrote off to be nothing. So now you're going to care about it in this new show. I don't like that. It seems like we're leaning back into this half-baked idea that had so much potential, but ultimately went nowhere. I don't see why we need it in House of the Dragon. The Targaryens don't need a prophecy to validate or to say this is why we want to rule. They want to rule because they have the dragons, and they're the baddest people around. They don't need the prophecy if we have to save the world. I think it's totally unnecessary. I get why they're doing it. I think it's a nice attempt to tie it in. However, just because the original show butchered this plot point so badly, it just... I don't like it. This is my rant about House of the Dragon. I hope it's kind of just hand-wavy and they don't really make it a huge plot point, because every time it's going to come up, it's going to bug me. So apologize if future reviews also feature me ranting about this very plot point. Look, other than that, the premiere was awesome. The pacing was great. The music was great. Characters were great. Acting was great. I really liked almost everything about it, with the caveat of the whole prophecy thing. Not my favorite. I like it for the books, not for the show. So let me know if I'm wrong, why this does work, if you are fine with it, and look forward to future episodes of House of the Dragon. See you later.